everyone. This is Joe David Cantu from Hispanic Heritage Month. Um, you know what? I'm about to introduce somebody that I've looked up to for a while now. He's probably younger than I am, but he's one of the very first Latinos that really was out there putting information out for us on the internet. He's one of those, guys who started saying, "Hey, we got a voice, and we're going to put it out there." And his name is Christian Enriquez. And I want to introduce you to Christian because, like I said, this guy got me started. And there was nobody else I really wanted on this show without him for 30 for 30 for Hispanic Heritage Month. Because if you don't know about him, you guys need to find him and you need to follow him because this guy's got some information for you guys. Chris, welcome to the show, and I'm glad you're here.
Thanks, JD. Pleasure to be on. Thank you very much.
Dude, I told everybody that you're one of the guys. You guys started this whole thing. When did you guys start doing your what? Okay, let me ask you this. So you started One Voice Radio back in 2010?
Back in 2010, right? And One Voice Radio started mainly because back in 2010, I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, originally from Los Angeles. And in 2010, Joe Arpaio started this campaign of this anti-Latino campaign. There was a lot of anti-Latino sentiment in the country at the time, much like there is again today. And the whole rhetoric was that we are just taking over the state and taking over the country. We're coming over from the border and stealing everybody's jobs, right? So my idea was like, no, that's not what we're doing. that's like absolutely not what we're doing. So I said, I'm gonna start something. There has to be more people out there doing awesome things that don't have a voice. That their story is not being told. So I started focusing on local, people in the community here locally in Phoenix, Arizona that are doing awesome things, that are being productive Latinos, and not taking everybody's jobs or being criminals or anything like that, like our pilot was saying at the time. We started focusing on that, and that's how One Voice Radio started.
So did you have like a big backing? Did somebody come and drop a big lump of money in your pocket and say, "Hey, go do a podcast or a website"? Or I mean, what happened? I mean, how did it happen with you guys?
I wish it was the case. Nobody dropped a lump of money in our lap at all. I wish. No, it was totally funded by myself. Still totally funded by myself. We just started doing a podcast, and I started doing some research on free podcasts. And Blog Talk Radio was the main one at the time. So I decided to start my own show and start interviewing people who I had met via social media. Online, so I just started interviewing them because they were doing awesome things. One of the names that comes to mind is Laurita Calderon from Florida. She is doing great things with awareness for the spina bifida, which is a huge thing that affects a lot of Latinos, and a lot of Latinos don't know about it. So she's one of the first people that I interviewed on the show to be on, and it kind of grew from there. And then we moved on to Facebook, and it's grown on Facebook, and we're now primarily focusing on Facebook, and we have grown to not only be a source for other people's voices, but also be a way of putting information out that it matters to Latinos in general here in the U.S. and across the world.
So wow, so you guys are, and so when I started following you, you guys had a really political tone. Are you guys still skewed in that direction where you're really following a lot of the stuff that's going on politically?
Yeah, I mean, politics plays such a big role with everybody here in the U.S., whether you follow it or not. One way or the other, it's going to affect you. So yeah, we do focus on the political side of it, and we don't take any prisoners, whether it's Democratic or Republican. We're gonna be critical of either party. If one of them is doing something that we don't agree with, we'll call you out on it, just the same as we would do anybody else.
Have you seen much difference of and you've been doing this now, what, 5 years? And what's the political arena like? Has it changed? Has it gotten better? I mean, and what are you seeing?
I mean, it's definitely getting a little bit better for sure. I mean, we had some great wins like DACA, for example. We've had a lot of wins here locally where now you see Arpaio, all of that hatred that he spewed back in 2010 coming back to bite him. You got the Department of Justice investigating him. He's just been pretty much cut down a size from his rhetoric from when he was back in 2010 to now. It's like night and day. At the same time, we have people like Trump trying to stir that up again. And like I was mentioning to you a few minutes ago, we live in a society now where new generations coming aboard, and they're not going to take it anymore. We're sick of the hate speech. We're sick of the non-facts that are being thrown out there about our community, and we're going to call you out on it.
So, do you think technology and Latinos are pretty strong on technology? They're on their mobile devices. They're finding stuff all the time. You think that's going to make a big difference with the voting for next year with the millennials and people who are voting for the first time?
I think that already has made a big difference. From 2010 when I first started, it was nothing but Twitter. That was my main. That was my main site of social media that I use personally. Excuse me. But now that Facebook is growing so much, there's so many people on there, so many sites you can go to. You don't get your news just from CNN or MSNBC or Fox anymore. Most people nowadays get their news from social media. So I think that's definitely has made a big effect on the political spectrum, and also it will continue to as we move on to this next election coming up.
When I think of you, man, I think of this little kid like in school, that was like a rebel and stuff in the back of the room, causing trouble and stuff because he just wanted to make a change. Were you like that, dude? That's what I want to ask you.
Was I a rebel? I've always been the one who likes to question authority in a respectful way, not just go, screw you, why, No, I always want to know why. Okay, great, that's the rule, but why is that a rule? I always want to know why. I always wanted to be the one asking the why. Explain to me the reason behind that. So, have I been a rebel? I guess I've always liked to go against the flow. I don't like to follow, the talking point. I don't like to just say, just to go along with what everybody else is going. I want to know why. I want to make my own decision, and I want to come to my own conclusion as to what what's best for me or for anything that I have going on at the time.
Do you see a lot of the younger kids following you and responding and getting involved a lot more, especially like in the beginning when you guys started, it probably wasn't as big and strong, but I mean, do you get a lot of more requests from young kids to either come and help you guys or work with you guys and get involved in some way by providing information? I mean, how's that working with you guys?
Yeah, we have a great community on Facebook that are constantly sharing things with us via private message of things we might have missed that are going on in their local community. And a lot of the time, it is a lot of young kids, high school kids and young college students that are messaging us. So, yeah, I do see that influx of young, not only Latinos, because One Voice Radio, even though we focus on the Latino issues, I mean, we're getting people all the way from Australia telling us what's going on down there. And, and we sometimes focus on that and we share it. We get people from Canada telling us what's going on up there. There's a big immigration issue kind of going on over there as well. So we get it from all over the place. But yes, to answer your question, primarily we get a lot of young people talking to us.
That must be pretty cool, man. I mean, that must you must feel kind of proud to feel, to see the difference now, and the landscape's changed so much with the internet. There's a lot of people who started at your time period and are no longer producing content for the Latino community. But what do you think is your success that's allowed you to stay around and continue, putting out information, sharing it, keeping it straight, being making sure that people are uh, doing what they're saying and saying what they're doing.
I think it's keeping an ear on the ground. That's the main thing, and not losing focus and looking around, not only here locally but worldwide, of the those little stories that you may not hear of. And one of the main things with One Voice Radio, one of the main things that frustrated me when I first started One Voice Radio was every time you would see somebody on MSNBC or Fox or CNN, whatever, is you would see the same people saying the same stuff. It's like, I'm tired of this bigwigs and talking heads all the time on TV. I want to hear somebody else's perspective, and that's what we try to do at One Voice Radio, is just keep our ear to the ground and hear those, try to find those little stories that nobody else is talking about.
If you were in a room full of kids that like high schoolers and stuff, what would you tell them? I mean, how would you tell them to start something like this, like what you guys did? Would you advise them to start a podcast? Would you, and how would they start one?
Well, if I was in a room full of kids, what would I tell them? Fight the power. I would tell them. I would tell them, if you're really passionate, find something you're really passionate about, whether it's politics, whether it's a medical cause, or whatever it is. Find something you're passionate about, and definitely, there's an audience out there for you. And go out there and do your research of how you want to do it, and go out there and do it, and you'll be surprised of how many other people are also interested in that. One great way of doing it, free way of doing it. I mean, try this, get the free stuff that you can get right now, because that's going to be the best bet when you don't have any money and when nobody's dumping a wad of cash in your lap. Is go on YouTube. They have that live cast now, cast going on now. You can share what's going on in your community live with your YouTube users. Check out YouTube. Blog Talk Radio is another great way of doing it for free. There's so many other platforms. I mean, you could even start a free Facebook page right now. There's so many platforms out there right now, and that's the great thing about this social media revolution, I guess if you want to call it that, is that there's so many ways of doing it, but there's no way you can go wrong. So if you're passionate, my what I would say is find something you're passionate and go for it.
That's great advice, because there's a lot of times that they hear, that our Latino students don't hear that no word, and they take it, and you shouldn't take the no for an answer. You should find and research and do stuff on your own and go beyond, those barriers, if you want to. If that's something you're really passionate about, I think you should. We're a small company, and I don't know how big you are because we've only talked on the phone. But we always find these little pitfalls where we work in these rooms, and we're working with media and we're finding stories and stuff. And I haven't been doing it as long as you guys have. But every once in a while I find myself in a black hole where I'm like, all this negative stuff, I just can't take another day of it. I'm looking for the positive stuff. I mean, does that affect you guys also? I mean, is that something that you guys have to fight through sometimes too?
Oh yeah. I mean, sometimes I felt like throwing in the towel. It's like I had enough of this negative rhetoric being spread around all the time. But then I think about, well, I owe it to the fans of the Facebook page. I owe it to the people listening to the podcast. I can't just throw in the towel, because we've shared so many things on Facebook now that have made, where we've gotten people say, oh, thank you for sharing this. That's a great story. We need more stuff like this, and that just pushes me and us to go forward with it and continue the dialogue and continue the sharing, because it is important to other people. But yeah, this is a full-time job. um, on its own. It does take a lot of time, and again, it's something that you have to be really passionate about to continue to do.
That's true. That's true. I'm going to have to ask you this. How do you think this is going to go with this whole Donald Trump thing? We're doing these podcasts because we want to, fight the Trumpisms is what I'm calling them. All these negative, information he's putting out without people really, checking on it or really verifying that what's coming out of his mouth is true. And we've decided to interview people like you who are doing great things in the community. What do you think that? Do you have any ideas? Do you feel anything out there? What's going on with the Trump stuff? I mean, how's that affecting our community?
Well, it's affecting our community, I think, in a positive way. It's making us look at how the GOP is taking Trump's rhetoric and how they're reacting to it, and it's making us really look at that party, and they're not doing much. So I think it's really making the Latino community stand up and get out there and vote. And unfortunately, it's going to go bad for them because Donald Trump has pretty much hijacked this election campaign pretty much with all his talks. He's the main one on TV for the most part. He's a great marketer and he's doing a great job at that. But unfortunately, it's not going to go well for him. I don't think he's really going to get elected. It's just a big cloud of smoke right now. I mean, realistically, America's crazy. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes America can be, super crazy, but I don't think they're that crazy yet. I think it's just, it's just him. It's just him getting his. He likes to see his face on TV. That's all I think it is.
Well, I'm just glad that we have people like you out there because you're at least keeping him, real, and you keep calling him out every time that he does something crazy. So this week, did you have anything that was just like outstandingly great that you want to share with the community that we should be looking for on your Facebook page?
Oh, so many things. Geez, you're putting me on the spot there. One of the things that I think is great that happened this week is the whole Jorge Ramos thing with Trump and him getting tossed out. His responses to Jorge to him being kicked out have been great. I think the community, anybody listening to this should go and check out those responses because he didn't blow up. He kept it classy, and that's what you have to do when you're in this type of political environment. Is keeping it classy, and unfortunately, Trump isn't doing that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you gonna keep on doing this for a while?
As of right now, I have no plans of stopping.
Good, man. I'm glad to hear that. Man, I want to just say thanks for coming on the show with me, man. I really was wanted to highlight you and tell people about you. If they already know about you, but you know what? If they don't and they hear it from us, I hope they follow you. If people were gonna follow you, well, give me some information of where they can look you up and get hooked up with all the information you have for Latinos out there, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. They can find us on Twitter at One Voice Radio, and they can also find us on Facebook. Just search One Voice Radio, and they'll come up. And you can check out our website at official1voiceradio.com.
Well, you're not going to be selling your company to a big conglomerate anytime soon, right? So you're going to keep all the information steady and good for everybody, right? For the community.
This is for us, by us. This is not going anywhere.
That's my raza, viejon. That's my raza. Dude, man.
This is for us, by us, baby.
Dude, you got me started on this, and I can't thank you enough. If anything, you can always say, you fired somebody up, and I appreciate it. Anybody else you recommend that the people out there, because in reality, if you go back and look at all the broadcast companies out there, there's not any that I know of that are Latino owned anymore. Anybody else besides you guys that people really want to get involved in knowing what's going on there? I mean, I don't want to name your competition, but you know what? We're not competition. We're all brothers and sisters working for the same thing almost. So, anybody else you look up to?
No, absolutely, and you're right. I don't see it as competition. I see it as a community. So definitely check out, Latino Rebels. There's a great site that they have at LatinoRebels.com. They're on Facebook as well. They spread tons of knowledge out there of different topics, and they have their own content that they create called the Rebelde Report, the Rebel Report. Sorry. Go check that out on YouTube, Rebel Report. Also, check out Latino Rebels. It's a female version of Latino Rebels. They also spread a lot of knowledge out there. Check them out.
Hey, didn't you start with Latino Rebels? Wasn't that part of your baby too?
Latino Rebels. I was originally started with One Voice Radio, and I was asked by the founder of Latino Rebels, Julio Ricardo Varela, to join his shortly after that. And yeah, so technically, I guess you could say I'm one of the original founders of Latino Rebels back in 2010, 2011, around that area. But yeah, full disclosure, I'm part of them too.
Awesome, dude. Did you guys go out and get a bunch of tequila in you and get a tattoo together too?
Now, unfortunately, it was really crazy how we started, because Latino Rebels has members, over 30 something members that create the content that you see on Facebook and on the webpage. From coast to coast. I mean, we have members from Boston all the way to Los Angeles, and everywhere in between. Julio sent out an email telling me, "Hey, I got this crazy idea. I don't know what we're gonna do with it. Let's just see what happens." And I'm like, "Sure, I'm down. I'll do it." And it's blown up to a huge site where we get, it's the same thing. We get a lot of content from our own audience on that side as well, and we share it. We like to share people's experiences, and it's open to anybody. So if you're willing to write a piece for Latino Rebels or One Voice Radio, we welcome that as well. This is again for us, by us.
Hey, I forgot to ask you? Did you come from a journalistic background? How did you get started on this?
I didn't actually. I've always liked journalism. I don't have a journalistic background at all. I've always liked journalism, though. I've always, ever since I was a kid, I wasn't the one that watched the cartoons. I was probably watching the news ever since I was a little kid. And really, I just learned from a lot of the great broadcasters out there on TV on how to do interviews and how to present myself when interviews are being done about me. And that helped me out, especially with the podcast. I listen to a lot of talk radio and, kind of mimic what they do. And that's how I started out with it. I just went for it. And, just like you and I are having just a very casual conversation right now, that's kind of like how I like to have my interviews done as well, very casually. It's just two guys talking, or two girls, a girl and a guy talking, whatever it may be.
Yeah, well, you know what? I do follow you, man. I do follow you. I'm still learning from you every day, man. I'm telling you, I've been a big fan, and I've followed you guys for a while now. And if it wasn't for you,
well, JD, don't sell yourself short either, though. I mean, you have a great site going on right now. You have, you're doing your own thing, and I couldn't be prouder of you. I saw your website the other day, and I was like, wow, this is beautiful.
Thanks, brother, man. Coming from you, that means a lot, man.
No, absolutely.
So, everything that we've talked about today is just, go out and do it, really, and make it happen. And you guys did it. And I just want to thank you, man, for coming on and talking to us. I wanted to have somebody that, in case one of us ever stopped publishing, that they would definitely come into you guys or, follow somebody else, that there's not going to be a lack of media out there for you guys. I think that I want to end off with a good little goodbye with Chris. Chris, words of thought before we leave? Anything that you want to say to the folks out there? Words of wisdom?
Words of wisdom. I would say, one thing I've learned from this is don't give up. If you see injustice anywhere, fight it. Speak up against it, because that's the only way we're going to get the message across that it's not tolerated. So that's what I would say. If you see injustice in any way, shape, or form, go out there, fight it. Do it your own way, though. I mean, it may not be, fighting the power or starting
A rap group?
a march or a rally or something. It may not be like that. Do it in your own way, but don't just sit idle and watch it happen, because it could happen to you one day.
True that, man. Hey, one more time. I'm gonna let you plug where they can find you.
Yeah, definitely add One Voice Radio on Twitter, official onevoiceradio.com, and on Facebook, One Voice Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's not paying me to do this, but I'm plugging him because I really respect what he does and what he's been doing for all these years. I want to thank everybody for listening to us one more time. Chris was really, really kind to come on and talk to us. I know he's a busy man. I hope that you keep on following our podcast. We have 30 for 30. We're going to introduce another Latino or Latina tomorrow, which will enlighten you of what we're actually doing out there. There's a lot of Latinos doing great work. This is just one of them. Chris has been doing it for since 2010, and I hope that you follow us tomorrow and learn about somebody else. Thanks, everybody. Gracias, and we'll see you tomorrow.